The Harmattan season is upon us once again, bringing with it that familiar dry, dusty wind and chilly mornings. While it offers a welcome break from high humidity, it also introduces a unique set of health challenges, from dry, cracked skin and lips to potential respiratory problems and also eye irritations. These conditions can impact everyone, but they pose particular risk for vulnerable groups like children and elderly and individuals with all sorts of health conditions, health challenges, of course. Today, we're diving into practical Harmattan health hacks to equip you with the knowledge and simple habits needed to navigate the season safely and comfortably. We'll explore expert-backed tips on everything from hydration and skincare to protecting your respiratory system and knowing when to seek medical help. So to help us unpack this today is a medical doctor, Dr. Abdulmalik Bello. We are glad to have you join us on Daybreak Extra. Dr. Abdulmalik, welcome to Daybreak Extra.
Welcome. Hope you guys are doing good today.
We're fine.
Everything is good. Alhamdulillah.
Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
So what are the most common health conditions you treat during the Harmattan season, and how do they differ from other times of the year?
So basically, you see the Harmattan season, unlike the rainy season that we have, the rainy season, it has a lot of challenges like, malaria, diarrhea, and all sort of things. Like if you talk about the heat season, also it has its own things going on. When we talk about the Harmattan season, it's basically having a way that nature puts dry mode on, like pressing dry mode and everything gets dry. Like the basic things are, we have low humidity. When we say low humidity, it means no moisture, and then it's packed with cold air. And it means that, one of the things that you should actually know, it's like cold air strips off humidity from all the surfaces, like even the human surface. And one of the basic things is like the skin gets compromised. And once the skin gets compromised, then we have all sorts of sicknesses. And then you see people with COPD, people with asthma, people with, all these type of respiratory illnesses. They get disturbed. They are in that condition whereby, this situation, it's not the...
like the asthma and everything?
Exactly. Like asthma, COPD, sinusitis, and also people that have, what they call it, like eczema, like flare-ups. It gets, skin conditions. All the skin conditions get, flared up. Why? Because like the skin gets compromised. The oil in the skin gets stripped away. Like the skin can't hold oil any longer, because like all of these we're going to talk about more about these things. And then you'd actually even see that let's say people that have immunocompromised situation also, they are also in this category. And then the Harmattan deals a lot with like a lot of illnesses, like just like I mentioned, upper respiratory illnesses. And then another thing, like allergies, like people that are known to have allergies, like to dust, they also get triggered. And people that have sickle cell patients also. Like all these, when we have low humidity, it means that the air, it's been filled with dust. So when the air is filled with dust, it means we have low oxygen. So for example, like the sickle cell patients, like when there's low oxygen, low saturation, like things get worse for them. And so all of these illnesses, when it's Harmattan, like they need to step up. They need to, step up their game and, put into shape so that, they would have like a better way of living during this season.
Okay, doctor, what specific advice do you have for individuals with chronic respiratory conditions like the asthma that you just talked about and allergies? You even talked about that, beyond carrying their inhalers, and how do they avoid dust? Because it seems like dust is the major issue here.
Yeah. Even notwithstanding, even not with the dust, when you take a look at like I said, the cold air. So cold air causes vasoconstriction. Vasoconstriction means like, when something is open, it makes it like narrower. So in the lungs, like cold air, when we have cold air around the environment, like when the thing is like when you take a look at, you know, other types of seasons, but when you take a look at Harmattan, because you breathe in, and the air has to go through your nose, because you have to breathe in oxygen. So now breathing the oxygen, it has to go through your nose. So you have to breathe in with dusts. So now when that dust enters your lung, then we have anti-inflammatory response. It means that those dust, when they enter the lung, then they have some irritations. And once that irritation kicks in, especially with people with asthma, then it gets narrows. And when it gets narrowed, you can't breathe, and they start wheezing, you know, and having all these things. So one of the things I would say, like there's this method called the scarf method. Like when they use, like, let's say a mask when they go out, like you can wet the scarf and put it around your nose, so that scarf would actually absorb the dust around the environment. So now you breathe
Something
in,
like a face mask.
like a face mask, exactly. And also, like there's this special thing. There's this patient that actually you know, came to me, and she's just a teenager. So most of the time, like when it's this Harmattan season, she mostly have these attacks. And then, like I said, like what we'll do is, like you have to close your window, like when you're about to sleep, and then you have to avoid morning walks. Like you see that chilly moment in the morning, when you have to in the morning when you wake up, and then you see everywhere is cold. You have to avoid that moment. You have to, you know, use warm blankets. And then there's a trick. It's actually called the hack. So when you're about to sleep, you take the bowl of water and put it by your side, because like during the Harmattan, like all the environment, the moisture is being sucked out. And once the moisture is being sucked out, you know, there's a problem. There's no moisture in there, and breathing becomes difficult. So that water, you just get some clean water, put it behind your bedside, and then sleep. So all the moisture around your environment will make you better, will make you have a better breathing. And then there's actually one thing about Harmattan that people don't know. Like, because it's cold, you don't get thirsty. You understand? So when you don't get thirsty, you feel like you're not dehydrated, but you get dehydrated. You understand? It's called insensible dehydration. Your body loses water immensely, like almost by 50%, but you don't feel it because it's cold, so you don't even get thirsty.
Yeah, it gets cold in the mornings and evenings.
Yeah, so you feel like I don't need water, but you actually need water. You need to stay hydrated. And one of the best hacks for Harmattan is just getting hydrated. You know, take warm sips of water, like again and again. Even if you don't need to take water, just keep taking water and water. Like, stay hydrated, because once you get dehydrated, we even have what we call dehydration fatigue. You just feel you're tired. You just feel you're weak. You don't know what's wrong, and it's just that your body don't have enough water. That's just it. You know, so they can also have like what we call like a saline nasal wash. Like, for example, you just like use what they call it, like the inhalers. Like, they have the special inhaler that they're called saline inhalers. So now they add moisture to the, you know, bronchioles, like the lungs. So when you're breathing, because the air is being stripped of moisture, so now the inhaler has that, you know, moisture in it. So it gives that moisture, and then it doesn't get dry. So it doesn't get that irritant. So having this also helps, you know. And then also, like I mentioned, I said stay hydrated. Like, getting just like maybe a tea, and then maybe something that will really like stay with the hydration. It's really beneficial. Something that would actually go a long way. And then you don't have to actually wait for you to get, you know, symptoms before you start acting out. You need to get your inhalers ready. You need to get, you know, yourself ready. You know that, okay, I'm about getting into a season that I'm going to be compromised, you know. So I have to be ready. You have to get these things ready, and you have to be very careful. Yeah.
Okay. Now, let's talk about the skin. Are there particular types of moisturizers medically or specific ingredients you recommend or you can recommend for combating the extreme skin dryness associated with Harmattan? Because I was surprised when you mentioned eczema. How is eczema related to, you know, Harmattan season? I thought it's an all-round season thing.
Yeah, so, you know, one thing about the skin is like the skin basically have its own oil that it's been produced every time, like to make your skin barrier stay like fit. But now, once we enter Harmattan, the skin barrier gets compromised. It gets so dry to the extent that almost all the water content of your skin gets stripped off. Just like I said, I told you, like the cold air in Harmattan, it strips off the moisture from the whole surface, even the skin. So now when your skin has been compromised, then you have fissures, which means cracks. And then when you have these cracks, like even a slight crack when the skin has been compromised, then you have, like, you know, stuff like I said, like eczema flare-ups. And when you have eczema flare-ups, one of the biggest mistakes people do is they use water-based moisturizers. And water-based moisturizers, they don't actually do anything. Like, what you're supposed to use are oil-based moisturizers, actually. Like, for example, shea butter, coconut oil, petroleum jelly, all these things. They're the ones that help, because what they do is they trap the moisture. Like, for example, when you take a shower now, after 3 minutes, you have to use the oil-based moisturizer like as soon as possible. Why? Because the water left on your skin, when you use that moisturizer, it traps the remaining moisture and keeps it on your skin. It's like a jacket that, you know, covers the moisture and then stays with it. You understand? So once it stays with it, your skin doesn't get compromised, you know. And when it's compromised, like the skin barrier, it means that that's when you get all this type of, you know, skin infection. For example, people that have psoriasis, if you have eczema, because there's nothing that is protecting the skin. The oil is what is protecting your skin. So now it's gone. It means now your skin is being compromised. You know, you don't have any way to go about this. So that's why it's very, very important. Like, also, like I'd say, like, some females, they like using the hyaluronic acid also. It's very important because it also, you know, keeps the moisture, you know. So definitely, when we talk about skincare, you know, women, they tend to
yeah, I think that was why I decided to ask too, because it will help lots of women, and women, of course.
Yeah.
So what about the kind of food you eat? What kind of food can we eat to help curtail respiratory issues and even the skin conditions in the Harmattan season?
Well, you see, people, they tend to go with, you know, what they like. Like, for example, people will be like, if I like taking tea and bread, then I'll take tea and bread all my life. Why do you think, like, you know, some people, let's say in other countries, they tend to shift their meal? Like, for example, when it's winter, what they take for breakfast is not what they take in summer. For example, like a typical person would take like bread and tea, you know, all his life. But now in Harmattan, you're supposed to take things that are, you know, rich in, for example, probiotics, rich in anti-inflammatory. For example, a typical breakfast that would actually benefit you, let's say, just take water, some oats, and some fruits, like for breakfast. Unlike your, let's say, rainy season where you'd have like tea and bread, you understand? So now having fruits, you know, and vegetables, they boost the immune system. For example, like one of the things that, you know, boost the immune system, ginger, you know, turmeric, all these things, like staying hydrated, like I mentioned earlier on, like it's very paramount to stay hydrated. For example, like taking watermelon, you know, what do you call it, pineapple, fruits entirely, you know, all these things, you know, they keep you hydrated. And once you're hydrated, you know, it also boosts your, you know, level of immune system. Like, and if anti-inflammatory response in your body gets higher, like for example, food that are rich in zinc. So like if you take zinc, it stops the replica of viruses. Just simple cold now. Like when it's Harmattan season, you see people, they always get, you know, sore throat, you know, cold, and on all of these things. So now all of these foods would help you. And then people wait for the, you know, the time that when they are sick, that's when they start thinking about what to take. But you can, with Harmattan season and everything in its entirety, it's you have to go for the preventive measure. You know, once you go for the preventive measure, you don't have to worry about anything. I take my fruits, I take my vegetables, you know, I take all that I need. Then I don't need to worry about, you know, getting sick, you know. So like, for example, ginger, garlic, these are things that you can just put in your food and make some soup, you know, like make your soup and then eat, and that's all. Like, especially for children, like children, they need this the most, because, you know, they can't actually do things by themselves. So you're the one that you have to, like, you know, put all these things in place for them.
Okay, now, can you explain the link between the low oxygen content in the air during Harmattan and sickle cell crisis, and what preventive measures are most effective for this patient? Because I'm meant to understand that sickle cell crisis and attacks increases during the Harmattan season. So what can be done to manage that situation in the Harmattan season?
So basically, like for a sickle cell patient, of course, if you're sickle cell, you have to understand that your condition deals with when it's your condition when it reaches to a topic about low oxygen, you're being compromised. So anything that has to do with low oxygen, then there's a problem. So once we know that, okay, Harmattan is setting in, one thing that you have to understand, the mechanism of how low oxygen comes about is because we have dust in the air. When we have dust in the air, it means there's low oxygen, because now the dust attaches itself to all the gases. So now when you breathe in oxygen, it doesn't come pure oxygen. You understand? It's low oxygen. So now when you have
there's no fresh air
there's no
during
fresh
the
air,
Harmattan
exactly.
season.
And then, like I mentioned, cold air causes vasoconstriction. Like it actually narrows the bronchioles. When you're breathing, you don't actually get enough what you're having. So now with people that have vaso-occlusive crisis, that's why it's called vaso-occlusive crisis. Occlusion, like it's been occluded, like their body can't actually take in oxygen properly. You understand? So people that have this sickle cell, they tend to have a lot of this crisis, especially when we talk about Harmattan, and then they notice that how they actually eventful situation whereby like Harmattan sets in, like they have to go with the same thing I said, like hydration. They need to take a lot of water. Like so many a times, like I said, you feel like you don't need water, but you actually need it. They have to be wary of environments, just like people that have asthma. You have to be wary of environments that have a lot of dust. They have to use like a mask, and also they have to use the folic acid. Folic acid really helps. And then take their medications, and also like make sure they're eating enough food, because like when you're taking like food rich in iron, like also it helps with binding the oxygen that they breathe in. So and also like just like I mentioned, like the way you sleep, where you stay, you have to make it very moisturized, like using humidifiers. It traps dust in the environment and make the where you sleep, it makes it pure, and you'll be able to breathe properly. You understand? Because like breathing is the problem, because when you aren't able to breathe properly, you can't take enough oxygen for you to be able to stay in check. And once they have low oxygen, that's all.
One thing is we have two places, like we have the urban area and the rural area. The rural area are more open to these dust issues. So what kind of advice sometimes they cannot avoid the dusty air and what have you. So what advice can you give those kind of people that cannot really avoid that?
Exactly. Like that's a very good question, because like when you take a look at it, like now in the rural areas now, like I mentioned, like you can do a basic something basic as let's say using the scarf method that I mentioned.
Okay.
Like for example, if you're going out, like you use a wet scarf and then tie the wet scarf around your nose, so that it absorbs like the dust, so when you're going out, so this reduces the dust. And then now the dust in the environment, now you have to make sure like where you stay are closed, you understand, so dust doesn't enter the room that you're staying in. So you have to, as much as possible, like I mentioned also the bedside method, where you put like a bowl of water when you're about to sleep, and then you close everywhere, so now it stays much moisturized. You understand?
Like the bowl of water makes the atmosphere
Moisturized.
Okay.
Like yeah, because like there's dry air, like it means there's no water in the environment. So because there's no water in the environment, you see like sometimes like you feel like you're not breathing properly.
Yes, it's everywhere it's just dry.
Everything is choked. Like you see low ventilation. It's not big. It's just that the air is not pure. You understand? Yeah. So this would actually really help.
Okay, what are the signs now that a common cold or eye irritation is worsening and requires immediate medical intervention rather than home care. You know, this is, let me use the Nigerian language for you. This is the Apollo season.
Of course.
You know, the eye
course.
irritation problem that is really, it has happened to me once and it's not funny. So
Honest.
what can be done to you? What medical advice can you give people, and the symptoms, once they feel the symptoms, what are they supposed to do?
So you see, with itchy eyes, conjunctivitis, and all of these things, like red eyes, just like you mentioned, like in the Harmattan season, like the tears that is being produced by your eye, it also disappears very fast because of the dry air. So it means that your eyes can't stay moisturized, so it gets dry, and that's where the itchy stuff gets, you know, it comes in. And now, when you have these conjunctivitis, like, you know, like I mentioned, you have to be wary of these things. Like, for example, like using protective, let's say, if you're going out, like especially people that are traveling. You see, when you're traveling now, like, for example, you're going from another state to another state, like the windows are open and your eyes are just, you know, there. So many dust. Imagine the amount of dust that can enter your eyes during that time. Like, so you have to at least, you know, protect yourself, like either by, you know, just wearing like a protective, like goggle or something, you know, sunglasses that would protect your eyes from, you know, having these dust. And then, like during this season, you notice that one of the key things for you to know is that whenever you have fever that lasts more than 48 hours, it means there's a problem. It means something is going on. You have a viral infection. You need to get yourself checked. You know, you need to do something about it. Whenever you feel fatigue, you know, you feel like you're just weak. Like, that's why, like, you know, when you see that you can't stand for like maybe 5 minutes, you have to sit down. You notice, why am I getting tired? Like, there's something going on. Like, and you have to know that during this situation, there's no sun. Like, so most people have deficiency of vitamin D because normally, like, there's no sun. You're always like indoors. So it means that also there's a problem. And another thing is, like, you know, when you start coughing, normally you'd have dry cough because of the irritation of dust that enters your throat. But now when you have dry cough that lasts more than 10 days, and then when you have a clear nasal discharge, it means that everything is okay. When you see that it's clear. But once you see it's colored, for example, you see like a green discharge, yellow discharge, it means that something is going on. Like, for example, bloody cough. Of course, it doesn't mean that, oh, I'm okay. When you have bloody cough, it means that there's something wrong. It's either maybe you have like pneumonia or something, shortness of breath. You can't breathe properly.
And
it's not because of the,
sorry for cutting you. It's pneumonia on the increase in Harmattan season too.
Of course, it's gonna get into, like, it's been compromised. Your lung is being compromised. Like, viral infections are more high. Like, this is the best, you know, time for viruses, you know, because they love the cold environment and they replicate faster. If you see, I mentioned that people should take more zinc. Why? Because zinc, it slows the replication of viruses. Like anything that has zinc, you understand? So that is why I was mentioning that, you know, like if, let's say, you have these, you know, signs. For example, you have fever more than 48 hours, more than 2 days, and you see that, you feel fatigued, you'll realize that, okay, why am I having, you know, cough? Like, it doesn't go away. If I have symptoms of headache and then maybe I have some cough, it's supposed to go when I start taking maybe ginger and honey or something like that, but it gets worse. Like, after 2 days, it gets worse. Like, whenever I wake up, I have sore throat. The next day, I have cough. The next day, so it means constellation of these symptoms. It means you have to go to the hospital directly. Like,
okay, are there any specific vitamins, supplements, or dietary adjustments that are particularly beneficial for boosting immunity during the season? Like, what medical advice can you give when it comes to that? Because people tend to abuse these things, supplements. Some are not even genuine. So what can you say about at the end?
see, people are very lazy. That's what I would say. Like, the human will just prefer to just, you know, have yourself, you know, just, you know, have everything by sitting down. Like, do you know that the reason why people don't take supplements, people take supplements actually, is because the idea of buying fruits and then eating it, the stress.
They take it like an alternative.
Yeah, they take it like an alternative. Like, you know, just taking one pill, I have everything. I have vitamin C, I have vitamin E, everything.
Yeah.
So now, like, would you think rather that is actually helpful? Like, there's something that you need to understand. Like, when you take when you take, like, for example, fruit that's natural, you can't really, even no matter how you put it, you can't compare it to it, having a pill that have everything. Like, even if you sit down and understand this, how does it work? You understand? So now if you're taking vitamin C, the best approach I would advise people is, you should go for fruits, vegetables. Vitamin C is very important. It's an antioxidant. It really helps boost your immune system. It helps fight off against infections. So it's very, very paramount that you take these things. And then I think it's a cliche. People think, like, when I take supplements, it makes me look cool. Like,
Okay, does that mean that supplement is actually not that good? It's just like you said, people think like, okay,
no, it's
taking
good.
supplements is just cool,
It actually works, but what I'm trying to say is, like, for you to have something that is effective, like, I would rather go for the natural one. Like, there's nothing that beats the natural, taking something natural. Because there's something, like, there's one time I was making a research. I said, like, I want to know, like, if, for example, if I'm having something processed and I'm having something natural, does it reduce the quality of what I'm taking? For example, like, if I'm taking something that has vitamin C and now I have it, like, blended, and now the difference of having a smoothie, like a watermelon smoothie, and me eating watermelon, is there any difference? Then I saw that when you blend this, like, it actually loses part of its the main originality of it.
But they don't add water in smoothie.
That's exactly why. Because what I saw is that when you use the blender and you blend it, like, the type of, like, natural things it has, it breaks down.
It breaks that down.
It breaks it down, so you don't get actually the full things.
So
now,
it's actually not the same as taking it in its natural form.
Definitely, like, there's a difference.
Okay.
So from my point of view, I'm trying to say, like, if you're taking, like, supplements, you should always remember that like, it doesn't beat taking what is natural. Like, for example, taking an orange and then taking a pill of let's say a vitamin C. There's a difference totally, but of course you get the same thing. And also, like, vitamin D is very important. Vitamin E also. Like, vitamin E, we have, like, for example, nuts and seeds. You can get it from sunflower seeds, like groundnut. These are rich in vitamin E. And also what they call it, like, omega fatty acid, like fish oil. It's very, very, very important. All of these things, like, they are things we eat. We just have to know that these are things that we need. Like, for example, like vitamin D, like I mentioned, like, you'd have vitamin D deficiency because you don't actually go out. It's Harmattan, there's no sun, and then you're always indoors. You feel like, why am I tired? There's something wrong, and it's vitamin D deficiency. But you can just have eggs. In eggs we have vitamin D. Understand? And then you can also, like, have also, like you said, some supplements of vitamin D, and you're all good to go. So vitamins are very, very important.
So, doctor, how can people differentiate between typical Harmattan symptoms, like dry cough, sniffles, the eye irritations, and a more serious infection that may require antibiotics or antiviral treatment that may require, like, going for a complete checkup in the hospital?
Just like we talked about when we were talking about the cough, mentioned, like, if it's a normal Harmattan, you just have, like, just dry cough. It wouldn't be really, let's say, persistent. It was just going to be a dry cough. But now, in a situation whereby you're having an influenza or something like the serious, you'd notice that the cough becomes productive. You understand? And when it gets productive, you now start having discharge. Then you know that, there's a problem. You understand? Now, for example, like, your eyes are itchy. This means that you don't have moisture in your eyes. It means that, the season, the dust and everything. But now when you start having discharge, like, for example, like, you have, like, white discharge, green discharge in your eyes, it means there's a problem. You understand? It means that you have an infection. You have to actually go to the, sometimes you wake up and then you see some discharge around your eyes, especially in children. And that's something that you have to go check it out. And also, like, shortness of breath, you realize, like, when you climb up the stairs, you just suddenly feel tired and you can't breathe properly. Shortness of breath, it means that there's something going on. It's either maybe, like, maybe you have a chronic obstructive pulmonary disease, or maybe there's pneumonia or asthma that's, you you need to actually do something about. So these are things that you just have to sit down and realize that something is going on, and you always feel tired, like you don't know why, and you always feel like why am I tired? Understand? And then when you're coughing, you have bloody sputum. You understand that of course if you see blood, it means that something is going on. There's a compromise, like, yeah.
Okay, doctor, quickly, this will probably be the last question, or second to the last, actually. You talked about humidifiers. So what is your advice on the use of these humidifiers or air purifiers indoors? Are certain types more effective than others for removing fine dust particles? What kind can it be? Because in Nigeria we have same products with a different kind. They make same products that gives a different kind of solutions. I don't know how.
Like one of the best pure humidifiers that you take is like the humidifiers that actually works only, that traps in like dust and make the environment moisturized. And one of the best ways to actually get this done is if you can get a humidifier and a purifier at the same time. Like during the Harmattan season, if you can get it in your room, it means that you're gonna stay clear of the dust. And then also you can't use a humidifier and your windows are open. You understand? It doesn't make any sense. It means like you make the dust are coming in, and then the humidifier is working, and you're not going to get the same thing. So you have to make the environment clean. Stay off, strip it of dust, and that's why certain humidifiers, of course, how how when you get things they're not actually doing their work. So many humidifiers that you buy, it feels like it's working, but it's not working. Yeah, you just see it like but there's nothing.
Yeah,
it's not working.
Okay, doctor, there's this one thing I really wanted to ask. Eye irritations, popularly known as Apollo in Nigeria. Some people actually say when another person is suffering does eye irritation and you just look at him in the eyes, you just automatically get it. Is it a myth or it's actually true?
Honestly, like I've heard of this.
Because how can you just look at somebody's eyes and voila, you have
I've heard of this already? You see, one thing, like I mentioned in this during this season, like things move faster than you can even imagine.
Because of the dry air.
Because of the dry air. Like, of course, like we're having particles that are moving from. So it can be that, you're looking at someone, and of course, like the same, what they call it, the same conjunctivitis that is affecting that other person, you can have the same thing by, just being around that person. You understand?
Because of the air.
Because of the air. It's just
not because of you looking at that person.
No, not because of you looking at that person. There's no actually, a standard mechanism.
You see people telling them, no, don't look at me, or don't look at me.
That's actually a myth because it doesn't actually have any mechanism to it. You understand? So that's it.
Well, thank you very much, Doctor, for coming to Daybreak Extra.
Thank you very much,
helping us unpack this topic and giving us your impactful views on this topic. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, too.